Hello everyone, welcome to Beyond All Reason. Today we're doing a tutorial about the front line, some strategies that you should use when being on the front line, and also kind of the mentality you need to have as far as reclaim goes. So, usually about not early game, but right after early game into like the very beginning early game, there will be quite a bit of aggression and the zones of the front line will be pretty well established, where you'll have no man. So this will be like no man's zone where people don't go because of the range of gunfire. And then you'll also have the enemy side over here, and then you'll have your side over here. Okay, that's usually what ends up happening in a game over time. So with the front line, you want to be very careful because it's a little bit of a tricky play when you're doing frontline. You can easily ruin any advantage you have based on economy, metal income, whatever it might be. You can totally destroy your economy, your advantage if you are not careful in how you do this. So you can do what I would call like a poke, where you push forward and get your guys in range of the enemy where they attack, and then you just retreat. Okay, that's a common thing that happens. You try to kill a couple targets and then you fall back. Now, what this does is it has the potential of keeping all of your metal on your side so that you don't end up like having significant losses um, in metal value. Now, with like, say for instance, you push and there's more guys there than you expect, and you're doing like a poke, but then you lose a couple guys, that can be pretty bad because that can end up leaving corpses towards no man's land, right? And eventually, no man's land will end up with tons and tons of bodies in it. Now, a lot of people will definitely try to go for this because this has like maybe 2000 metal, 4000 metal, however much metal is there. And this is a very valuable resource in the game, right? It's one of the things that people have the least of. So you don't want to just push in with all your troops and try to get this reclaim. You don't want to just go in there like a crazy person and then have your guys come in to reclaim. Reason being is a lot of times you'll either die in there or you'll end up pushing the majority of the reclaim field. So instead of it all being up here in a reclaim field, now you're going to have all of your reclaim that you just pushed in shift up. Now this can be dangerous for a couple of reasons. One is flanking damage. So like if you do try to come capture this reclaim field, now you have the potential of enemies coming in on the sides and making it a lot harder to get that, because this metal should be a target. Like people should just instantly recognize, wait a second, there's X amount of metal on the map. I need this. You know, that should be one of their main goals when seeing it. So a lot of people who have played the game for a while will have that mentality. So have the closer your reclaim field shifts upwards towards your enemy, the more difficult it will likely be to actually get those resources. Okay. Um, First off, before we get too much further, I'm going to just say if you guys are enjoying the video or end up getting value out of it, definitely give a like. And then if you want to see more content like this, you can also subscribe. Anyway, so today we're also going to be looking at like the different types of reclaim that is available. So, um, as the bots, you have a benefit on the front line, which others do not have, and that would be your Lazarus bot. Now, we talked about this in a previous video, but the build power of a Lazarus bot is 200, which is really, really good. That means if a guy is damaged, we'll damage him really quick. If a guy is damaged, he has as much build power as a build turret. Just one Lazarus bot. And he costs quite a bit less. Let's see how much less actually. He's like half as expensive. So a Lazarus bot is very effective at repairing your army. And also gathering resources. If you went like, say, vehicles or planes, or anything else really, if you went, well, except for shipyard, but if you went any other type of factory, you're not going to have the Lazarus bot, so you're going to have a slight debuff when it comes to collecting metal and resources, and when it comes to repairing your army. Okay. Um, in fact, a lot of people will late game build a bot lab so that they do have Lazarus bots because they are so valuable on the field. Now, uh, so if you built like a vehicle bay or something like that, then you'll end up having a construction unit, which would be like the construction vehicle, and they will be about as slow as this guy, which is incredibly slow, whereas this Resbot is pretty fast, comparably. So, this guy has a speed of 36. The Resbot has a speed of 78, which is a little bit slower than a pawn. So, it's not too bad. But anyway, the speed matters a lot because the faster, so at the front, the speed of your reclaim, how fast you absorb it, matters, and the speed of your unit absorbing the reclaim matters. That way, if for some reason you're being attacked while reclaiming, you can do a retreat without losing your stuff. Alright, let's get back into the front line and strategies for capturing reclaim. So, one thing that I find very helpful, and I have yet to do this well, is when dealing with the reclaim, creating a diversion. Now, this could be, for instance, you're pushing over here, and then you have these guys come through your raiding bots. You have them come around your main bulk. So your bulk pushes up, and then your small guys push back. So if this is kind of a bad map for the example, but if your raid bots end up getting out there, um, the enemy is going to have to pull back, right, and chase them down and try to maintain their uh, resources they do have. Whereas your bulk will then, your main army will then have a little bit less pressure on them, and you could also come up and do the reclaim, right? You could come in, take resources, and then retreat. And the raid bots, they don't really, it's only 240 metal, so it's not like a expensive risk, but it is a slight risk. Anyway, so that's one way of getting reclaim, is to create a diversion so that they have to walk back and retreat to stop their base from being destroyed. Another way of reclaim would be to have just overwhelming forces, where you build up enough army that nothing could really, their army is too weak. You'll be able to overwhelm them no matter what you do. And at that point, you want to basically be able to take on the entire, like you should, if it's an 8v8, you should try to be strong enough to take on at least a 1v3. Now, the reason for this is because if you start pushing with your guys and you're taking all this reclaim here, and you're gaining lots of metal and stuff from this, but the enemy team, they're gonna see you pushing up, and they're not gonna be happy about that at all. So they're gonna send in planes, they're gonna send in other, vehicles, bots. You're gonna have most of the enemy team coming to stop your push. Now that can be good if your teammates use it effectively, right? Because then they can come in and have a little less pressure. But a lot of times, your team will not realize how effective you're being on the battlefield and how far you're getting. So this pushing in like this is really quite risky because if as stuff dies out here, you're leaving reclaim for the enemy to get. So the further up you push with your bulk, the more risky it is for the enemy team to gather up all that metal and have a kind of rebound in the game. Also, guys, I got my wife has a jewelry store, and then I also have a Twitch channel, and the links are in the description below. If you guys want to check that out, that'd be much appreciated. So we didn't fully talk about the three units that you will likely have on the front. Either your commander, your res bot, or your just standard construction bot. I think at minimum you should have one construction bot on the front, and if you can get a Lazarus, get one of those on the front as well. The commander, I find that situational. I'm not like a pro or anything, but I have played quite a bit. I'm the true skill of like 23, which isn't super high, but it's up there. Anyway, as a 23 true skill, I don't generally push all the way up to the front with my commander. I find that to be situational for me. But anyway, I'll know it's very meta and a lot of people do it. So if you want to do that, go for it. Anyway, the commander he has a large radius of defense, right? So he has his D gun that he can just shoot and kill anything that comes close to him. And so that gives him a lot of ability to do reclaim. He's pretty well defended, whereas the Lazarus just has to run and hope he doesn't die. But yeah, the commander is really great at taking reclaim. Just he has a huge build power and the defense that he has. So definitely, if you have him up front, use him effectively there. Also, another thing he can do is up front is building turrets and stuff for like basic defense. So in a previous video, we talked about T1 turrets and everything. And really, you should view turrets as an addition of DPS, not an addition of strength, like HP. So when you're building turrets, it should be as a defensive position that your units are holding, if so it's not really to stop an army pushing through because it's so easy to kill them, but if your units are backing up the turrets, then you can do a lot of significant damage. Anyway, so commander, definitely have him up front if you're not afraid of getting rushed and destroyed with him. And then also the construction bot, I wouldn't recommend having him like doing reclaim because of his speed. It's very easy for them to push in on him and kill him. But he is very good at building like defenses such as anti-air or the gauntlet if you're into that kind of thing, which I'm not. But you definitely can be if you want to. Um, Anyway, he's good at, you can set up a nano turret out here that just does healing, which can be very, very good. That, because then you don't have to worry about microing quite as much with your units telling them, oh, repair everything, do this, do that, do this. So, the nano turrets, if you can get one of those set up, very effective. Alrighty, now we're going to be going over one more thing here. As far as how to defend the front line a little bit, and that is your repeat command. This is very, very good when you are maxed out on your micro or your actions per minute. You're maxed out on it. You cannot exceed what you have already done. Okay. Uh, so you're gonna want to try to automate this a little bit. So we have the repeat command, and we turn that on with T. And what you can do is you can have anything that comes into a certain radius have your Lazarus bot repair. And another thing you can do is anything that comes into a certain radius, you can have your Lazarus bot come out and try to do reclaim. Now the risk is with this command, oh, and then you also want to do a retreat command basically. So he will always end up retreating back to this point after he's done with everything. Anyway, the risk with these commands is if you get pushed and you have to fall back, and then your Lazarus bot is like, oh, there's reclaim up here, and so he wanders up to the front. Then pow, 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 he's blasted and dead. So you got to be careful with the repeat command, but it can be very useful if you use it a little bit more conservatively. So what I mean by that is have your reclaim circle small, have your have your repair circle small, and your reclaim circle a little bit. Whoops, I didn't press shift on accident. Have your reclaim circle small and having your repair circle small, and being confident of where it is, being confident that this I can hold this. If you know you can hold that spot, have your guy there. He can definitely put in some work. And then another thing you can do is fortify that zone with a little bit more DPS. As long as there's not tons of artillery, you should be able to get a decent amount of extra damage if they try to push you in that reclaim zone that you have set. Okay. But the risk of putting up turrets is always artillery, fire, rocket bots, things like that. A lot of stuff can outrange your defenses, so you have to be very careful and mindful of that. Anyway, so that's the basics, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you learned something, just some strategy to have on the front, and I'll see you later.